Micheal Elliott.
The Mike Elliott Show.
Micheal Elliott Show.
The Micheal Elliott Show.
The Micheal Elliott Show.
Listen to Micheal Elliott.
It's the Micheal Elliott Show.
Thank you for tuning in to the Micheal Elliott Show.
Help us grow this show. Like, subscribe, and comment.
How you doing today, Harvey?
Good, man. Awesome. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Micheal Elliott Show. I got my guest, Harvey Perry Sr., in the building, and we're going to talk about Harvey shaping his life from one area to the next area. Harvey, you know, I prepared a lot of stuff to come and ask you and things like that, but I actually wrote some new things today, and I'm going to kind of go off my phone if that's okay
fine.
with you.
That's great.
All right.
Do
So,
it.
Harvey, looking back at your journey from a wild teenager, from coaching community college now, what's the pivotal moment that experienced and shaped, you as today?
When I was incarcerated, I had the opportunity to sit down and gather my thoughts. I was still, as they say. And I didn't want my children to go through what I went through. So I made the decision before I was released, that upon my release, that I was going to change my way of thinking, change my mentality, and really spend more time in investing into my own children. And that really what changed my life is my children.
So share with us the impact of your time in prison, and how it shaped your life, and what are some of the things that you talk to your kids about not to be able to come to prison so you wouldn't be in there with a cellmate with your son, you know what I mean?
Well, first of all, prior to going to prison, I was considered a high-level gangbanger. I grew up a Crip. And once I entered the prison system, I realized that the other brothers and the other races, I found out that I wasn't mad at anyone. I wasn't mad at someone because their parents purchased a home in a different neighborhood, or they lived in a different block, or they wore another color. I realized that for me to be a genuine person, that's who I have to be, is hang out with genuine people. So once I got to prison, I found out that the guy that I had problems with on the streets, that he was just like me, just another brother trying to find his way. And immediately, I'm not gonna say I denounced the gangs, but I just changed my way of thinking. And I felt that I just need to deal with real people, good people, no matter what color, creed, religion, sexual beliefs are. So that really what changed my mind when I was in prison, man, just interacting with other people and just realizing that they made some mistakes that I've made. So we're all one.
So surviving through the gang life, you made it through. You went to prison. You ever been stabbed or shot or jumped or anything like that?
I've been jumped several times, and I've been shot a total of 6 times. I was shot 3 times at once, and I was shot twice at one time, and I was shot.
What was it like that laying there with bullet holes in you, and knowing that somebody just fired you and you was hit?
Well, the most scariest one, I was shot 3 times. I got hit right between the eyes, and to this day, I have a bullet on my spine. I was shot in the neck, and I was shot in the back, and not knowing that I was going to make it. That was really the scary part about it. And when the ambulance came, the police as well, the police spoke to the ambulance driver, and because of who I was on the streets, I don't know what he said to the ambulance driver, but he pulled off and he didn't turn the lights on. Yeah, we were stopping at stop signs, turning on the signal lights.
So you knew you was gonna live?
No, I thought I was gonna die because the ambulance wasn't putting on its sirens.
Oh, it was like sober with.
Yeah, so whatever the police officer said to that individual. I'm shot 3 times. I'm bleeding all over. So
And one of the shots is between the eyes.
yes, and so what I looked at is that the officer must have told him who I was, and the ambulance driver took it upon himself. It wasn't an emergency to him. Let him die.
Dang. Well, maybe because you was black.
I think it was a combination of that, but it was definitely because of my status in the street. In certain people's eyes, someone like myself at that time wasn't worth anything. So, the ambulance driver, we got to Cary and Martin Luther King making a left turn. I heard the signal light. And my brother happened to be in the ambulance, and I screamed. I was like, yo, there's no sirens. He was like, what?
Which one of your brothers?
My brother Jamie, who actually just passed away.
Okay.
Just passed away
Rest in
February
peace.
13th.
That's
Yeah.
right. That was yesterday.
Yeah. It was recently, man.
Yeah, that was
That was a tough one. That
was a tough one.
Baby brother.
Man, you look just like you too.
That's what everybody said. We look alike.
You went through the gang life. You went through the prison. You had your battles with the police and things like that. And now you took a turn in your life where you started coaching. You started connecting with college coaches, NBA coaches. You started doing basketball camps and sorts of things like that. How did that, kind of, work out?
Basketball changed my life. If it wasn't for basketball, I don't know where I would be. My son, Harvey Jr., probably about 5, maybe 6 years old, he said, Daddy, I want to play basketball. So I was more of a football player, and I love boxing. But one thing I knew was to work hard. So I took him down to schoolyard where I was raised at Joe Mackey in my neighborhood, and I just started training my son, pushing him. And people were coming up to me, was telling me how good he was getting. And so the fast forward, by the time he was in the 8th grade, he was one of the top 8th graders in the country. He was actually, ranked number 19th in the nation. And
so how did all that come about? Getting in there. I mean, what was the connections and the?
Well, the first thing was I took him to a camp, 5-star back east, and it was some of the elite players. He was in a camp with.
So let's say which camp, because you got a couple of 5-stars,
The one in Virginia.
Huh?
Hampton, Sydney.
Hampton,
Go ahead
Sydney,
and do that right now.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
for tuning
in that
in to the
camp
Micheal Elliott
was
Show.
Sebastian Telfair, Chris, I just had a mental block.
Yeah, but it was a lot of those kids. But Sebastian Telfair, that's enough.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the biggest talk of coming out of high school during the year that LeBron was in school, because LeBron was underneath Sebastian at one point. Sebastian was being highly more recruited, coming up. Is that true or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I guess he ran through the tournaments in Vegas and things like that.
Sebastian was the first and the only point guard to ever come out of high school. He's the only point guard. There's been guards drafted, but he was the first and the only point guard ever drafted out of the NBA. And Nike gave him a $15 million contract.
So you ever, your son ever play against these guys?
He never played against Sebastian, but he played against Chris Paul. Chris Paul was in the camp. And the things that people see today, I saw at 16 years old. I took a group of players down there, and Chris Paul gave one of my players 42. And Harvey Jr. had a game that evening, and I said, hey, man, if you win, you're going to play this player named Chris Paul. And Harvey was bigger, he was taller, he was stronger. But Chris Paul had that ball on a string. And I explained to my son, you have to play denied. You can't let him get the ball. So Harvey had him on lock. And at the end of the game, Chris Paul, he didn't know that I was Harvey's dad. He asked one of the camp supervisors, who is that player there? He says, that's Harvey Perry from North Las Vegas. And he said, that's the best defender in the camp. There was 450 players in the camp. And Chris Paul said that my son was the best defender in the whole camp.
Ain't that something?
Hold on. We'll be right back after this message. Have you liked and subscribed yet? Huh? Not yet? Go ahead and do that right now. Thank you for tuning in to the Micheal Elliott Show.
Visit umtmshopping.com for great quality and excellent prices on women's clothes, men's clothes, baby clothes, and children's toys, electronics, and much more. Visit us now at umtmshopping.com.
So what I heard about, I went there the year after, and I was down there, and I heard about you doing some barbecuing in the rain. Tell us about that, how that worked out.
Well, what happened is, I just, man, your character follow you. And as I was talking to some of the staff owners, and they told me where Walmart was. So I went to Walmart and I bought one of those little grills, and I bought a bunch of meat, some steaks and stuff of that nature. And it was funny, man, when they seen the smoke there, everybody was running around to the building, and they was like, "What are you doing? You can't be doing that." And I just cut the brother a piece of the steak. And he looked at me and he looked around.
Make sure wasn't nobody looking.
He said, "You got an extra one?" I said, "Nah, brother, that's yours." So, man, they treated me different after that. Every year that I came, I stayed in the dorms. I even had they allowed me to use one of their vehicles.
Man, I got down there the following year. Actually, you the one sent me down there. I took my son down there. They actually won the championship in the camp. He also got MVP. They played against Drew Holiday and the other guy, Tyreek Evans.
Yes.
And so they beat Tyreek and them in the championship. And of course, they got their awards and all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty cool. But when I got there, it was like, "Man, you know this dude named HP, man? Man, this dude barbecued in the rain and whoop-de-whoop." And I was like, "That's my partner," you know what I mean? So just, after high school and, you done, your son's out of school. He's done and he's grown man now, and he went to college at Washington and, was a high-level recruit.
Yes.
One of the highest recruits in that what is that? That's the WAC. What was that? The
Pac-10.
The Pac-10.
It was still the Pac-10.
It was the Pac-10 at the time. So he was like the highest recruit at the
Yes, he
time.
was one of the highest freshmen that year in the Pac-10.
I remember when he was in the 8th grade, he was rated as like the number one player, I think, here in Vegas.
State of Nevada.
In the state of Nevada. And, I watched him play middle school ball. I watched him play high school ball. He's always had the court knowledge, the vision. He understood the game like extremely well, man. So as far as you training and teaching him at Joe Mackey and, getting him in college, you did a lot. You did your job as a parent. And I want to get this out because people, they always used to try to, throw darts at you about you transferring your son to a different school and things like that. You were doing and putting your son in the best situation.
Yes.
And that's what people didn't realize. When the ball father did it, it was all cool when he did it. But when you did it before the ball brother. You did it before then. And
before my time.
when they did it was all good. But when you did it, it was all bad. Why is that?
Well, people got to understand is you have to do what's best for your child. And then even a couple times that he transferred high school, people don't understand that it was for financial reasons that we couldn't afford to live out in Henderson where we were living. And actually my wife, we had separated, and she moved in a zone. I didn't want him to go to that school. So I had to move out of Henderson, and that's when he ended up at Cheyenne. And it was for financial reason, mostly. Definitely, it wasn't for basketball because, as you know, and I'm not bragging or boasting, but he was the best player in the state of Nevada, so he could have played anywhere.
Outside of me, I'll whoop your son. No, I'm just fucking. So now that it's done, and what motivates you to continue to keep coaching basketball when you had the love for football? What's the motivation right now that drives you every day to do what you do?
I became a student of the game when I started taking my son to camp, and I was seeing these high-level coaches as of Jim Boeheim, John Thompson, Rick Pitino. I was not a fan. I would sit and talk and ask them questions. And the legendary John Thompson, he was a mentor to me. I'd ask him some questions, and he explained to me, he says, "Hey man, if you want to be in this game, you know what I'm saying, you have to understand a couple things." And he just, would tell me stuff, and he told me to write down his number, and I said, "Who do I ask for?" He said, "That's my cell number, son. Don't give it to no one." So I became a student of the game. I wasn't in awe when I seen these famous so-called coaches. I would take notes. And even when I first went to 5-star, I was so fascinated that I went to Walmart and I bought a $750 VHS recorder because I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen that teaching at that level. So I was so intrigued. I went and spent $750 back then. You know, that big one.
Right.
And I was filming stations, recording drills and things of that nature. So when I came back to Vegas, I've never seen anything like that. So when I started training my son and other athletes, and I started producing some of the top players in Vegas, you know, people started talking about me, like, who do you think he is? He think he know everything because he been here, he been there. But I was in class, man. I was in class,
studying,
and so I seen some things that that I've never seen before. You know, until I left the West Coast and I went down south. I went to the Midwest. Everything's different in every region of the country. So I was a student. I was a thief. I was going around the country stealing knowledge, plays, drills, eating habits, things of that nature. And I created one of the, you know, both of my sons was extremely great athletes. And, you know, so through that.
So, you know, one of the things that I give you credit for, because you had your hands on the Southern Nevada Powerhouse, which team I coach. You had your hands on the Prospects, Anthony Brown coach, and you had your hands on the Dog Catchers. And during 2006, 7, and 8, I believe your son had just probably finished school in 06, right?
Oh, well, he went to prep school. He finished prep school in 05.
In 05.
And then that's when he went to the University of Washington.
So with those three teams that your son was never able to play for, but you stayed in the game, you kept your hands on it, and you directed people. And those were the three top teams in Las Vegas. They went across the country and made noise, like the Southern Nevada Powerhouse, which was my team, in the Reebok tournament. You know, that you turned me on to. You know, hey man, get with these guys and the Dinos and all that. We were the #1 scoring team in the tournament, 2007. You can look it up, Reebok Classic. We didn't win the tournament, but we was the #1 scoring team in the tournament. And I seen the Washington coach, and I asked him, you know, hey man, Romar, you know, how good is Harvey Perry? You know, he was like, man, kid, his upside is spectacular. You know, as if he was going to be like the next, you know, George Gervin or something. You know what I mean? They had really high hopes on him, and he wound up having, I guess, back problems. And
yeah, he had a very serious injury. He cracked his spine. He literally cracked the bottom of his spine. He cracked, and the top of his spine was starting to crack. And yeah, that really changed his game because he was a very aggressive and physical player, and it took a toll on him mentally.
So, you know, in today's time and yesterday's time, as an African-American coach, how do you navigate the challenges and promote the diversity in basketball in the community?
Well, I believe it's very important that people like myself stay, you know, never forget where you come from, man. You got to stay grounded. You always have to keep your hands on the grassroots program. And even to this day, man, I get a lot of phone calls, and I go evaluate players, I go evaluate teams, and a lot of people call me and get my opinion on things, and even on some decision making as to what's best for their kid, you know. And I really respect that people respect my knowledge over the years and value my opinion when it comes to their child. So, you know, it's very important, you know, to help others. You know, every day that I get up, that's the first thing I think about. Who can I help? How can I help someone? You know, that's, you know, just being faithful, man, to God. You know, God has blessed me and allowed me to be here. And if it wasn't for God's grace and mercy, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Oh, that's beautiful. So what advice would you give to young coaches that want to coach that's African American, or if they're Caucasian or Asian or Mexican, what advice would you give them about this basketball game?
I have a problem. I take my hat off to anyone who takes the time to work with other people's children, but I have a problem. They're not educating themselves on the mentor side, as on the court, off the court, on the field, off the field. So you have a lot of people just sitting around and, like, you know, they have a few dollars, a couple of friends get together, I'm gonna get a team. But they're not educating themselves on how to build that team, how to develop the youth, So to be honest with you, it's just my opinion that they're hurting these young men and women. And then when they come to the collegiate level, to where I'm at right now, it's a fight for me. It's a fight because these athletes are only as knowledgeable as their circle of people. And again, like I said, we have so many of these volunteer coaches who are just creating these organizations and these AAU programs just because, not learning, not reaching out to people like myself.
They get one good kid and like, go get him.
Well, it's like yourself. You had several sons, a couple sons who played.
Yeah.
But you came to me and said, hey, you saw what I was doing with my son.
Right.
And so you asked me questions and I directed you. And when you went to 5-star, and I told you, tell them me and your relationship, and be honest, you told me that I saved you a lot of money because you had to rent a car and you had a hotel room, but they did you the same way they did me.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? They allowed you to live in the dorms.
Yes.
And you didn't have to use your rental car. You could use one of their
vehicles, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's how it should be. Like I tell people, I don't care how high I go, I'm always keep my finger on that button, that elevator, pushing it down.
Absolutely. One of the things was the Pangos All-American, which is a huge camp. And I remember you telling me, man, just go talk to the dude. Tell the dude you ain't got no money, man. And, tell him who your son is. And, hey, and that's exactly what I did. I remember we was at Trinity School and he was like, okay, come on in. You know what I'm saying? Dino. My man Dino Tredong is a big shout out because Dino allowed us to be in the tournaments, kids. I had 11 kids. He's like, Mike, you're bringing too many kids. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, hey, I'm just pulling them in. And that all came through you. You know what I'm saying? And I definitely appreciate, the connection and all that kind of stuff. And, people have they different thoughts. They have their sayings and what they want to say about, individuals because they see people thriving and they see people really making moves that they couldn't make or they didn't make. And the first thing they do is they start throwing darts. How did you dodge the darts that they was throwing at you?
Well, I just got to the level mentally that people really say that they don't care about what people say, but it's not really true, man. To really get to that level, it's hard. And so once I got to that level, I didn't care what anyone said about me, the things I heard and things of that nature. And I'm not going to say names, but there are some successful high school programs that I was behind the scenes and helped build.
Absolutely, that's definitely.
I mean, I used to get phone calls 11 o'clock at night for a couple recognizable high school coaches who are currently coaching right now would call me and ask me about my expertise and just my opinion. So it speaks value. I'm always behind the scenes a lot, and that's fine with me. I see a lot of people getting a lot of recognition here in town, and that doesn't bother me, man, because when I see these young men and women over the years that I've mentored, and they tell me how I impacted their lives and things like that. I had a player, Nick Porter, who's from Compton, man. He had a rough upbringing, and
DP.
Yeah, and when I got with him, I explained to him he wanted me to help him get to college, and I said, I can't help you because you're not marketable. Just the way that he looked. You know what I'm saying? I said, you ain't that good to look that way. He had half his head plaited, the other he was just wild.
Right.
3-4 days later, he called me, man, and he had a high top. He had a ball fade, and make a long story short, he ended up going to Creighton University, and I got a phone call one day. I seen it's his number. Hey man, what's going on? How you doing? He said, hey coach, the season ending. I got senior night. I was like, yeah, cool. He says, I want to know if you can come down. I was like, oh man, no problem. He says, but I got another question for you. I was like, what? He said, can you walk me out?
I remember that.
And I don't know if people know what that means, man, for you to be selected, for someone to ask you, a senior, that was huge. And my fiance at the time was looking at me, and I couldn't talk. I started like crying, and she's like, "What's?" And I was like, "Okay." So and that was huge. You know what I'm saying?
So that was huge.
Yeah, man, that was huge.
That was huge. That was a blessing for him because without you being there, it could have been anybody that would made him look bad. All kinds of stuff. Or maybe nobody would even show up.
He was very talented, but he was rough, man. He was rough around the edges.
Yeah.
He grew up in Compton, and he had Compton on his arm. I mean,
Yeah.
he was with all that, you know what I'm saying? And I just, and then listen too, man, his degree is in communication.
Ain't that something?
Wow.
Speaking about arms, how do you stay, in good shape in your fitness and that kind of stuff? How do you?
Well, I've always worked out, man. I've never been out of shape. I started doing the push-ups at the age of 11, and then at the age of 13, when my brothers and them wanted bikes and skateboards and stuff, I wanted some weights. I wanted a weight set. So my mom went to Kmart and got that cement weight set, 175 pounds with the bench.
Did you have the black ones or the gray ones?
I had the gray ones, baby. I had the gray ones, man. And I had some older gentlemen across the street from me, man, and I used to watch them lift weights. I didn't understand what they were doing, but I counted the plates. I seen them every 2-3 months. They put more plates and more weight, and in 6 months I looked at they were getting bigger, and I said, that's what I want to do. So by the age of 13, I was full-fledged working out, man, and I've never been out of shape in my life. You know what I'm saying? And right now, I'm in intermittent fasting. By the end of the year, I'll be a certified health coach and nutritionist.
Right on.
Haven't eaten pork in 36 years, beef in 34. I just watch my diet, man, and exercise, meditate, things of that nature. I'm very health conscious.
Okay. Looking ahead to what's next for Harvey, I mean, what are the things that you got in the cabinets for pulling off the shelf next?
My ultimate goal is to be in the NBA, to be on staff, and be player development. But when I say player development, it's not working with individuals in the gym, working on the individual skills. John Moran is a fine example. When I speak of player development, it's sitting these young men down, tell them about me, tell them my life story, and tell them how serious it is, about their actions and trying to be a blood in the Crip at 20, 22 years old. I come from that world.
Right.
When people ask me about, that Crip dance and stuff, I said, when my era, you couldn't do that unless you were a Crip.
Unless you were a Crip.
And then, when you did the Crip dance, you threw up your set.
Absolutely.
So, and then it wasn't even called a dance. It's actually a Crip walk.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? So I stay away from that. You know what I'm saying? The Crip, everybody Crip dance.
Right,
you know
right,
what I'm
right.
saying? And all that kind of stuff. But for me, again, back to the NBA, I believe that someone like myself who's been through the drugs, the gangs, incarceration, and then I went to prison at a young age, and I was only supposed to do 10 months, but I caught a case. I cut somebody, I stuck somebody,
Right.
and I beat 12 years, but they sentenced me to do the rest of my time in maximum security, where when you ate, they had a catwalk 12 feet up in the air with a gun. So I've been in the trenches, on the streets, and in prison, where you didn't go nowhere unless it was 2-3 of your same race, with your back against the wall. You take a shower, somebody standing outside the shower. You know what I'm saying? So
that's
I've
that
been
life,
there.
man.
So these guys are playing, and that's why I tell everybody, why everybody want to be so tough?
Calm down.
Calm
So,
down.
like you say, you want to do, hopefully be on the staff at the NBA. So how would that help Las Vegas community in basketball?
Well, I moved here in 1968, and been here all my life, most of my life, man. And for me to come from where I come from, I call it from the block to the boardroom, because I have my own business. I'm an investor, things of that nature. I'm investing Converse, Nike, things of that nature. And for people to see, these young people to see me make the transformation, that says a lot. That not to give up, that you can achieve your goals. God wakes me up every day to be a light and an influence to others and to be a walking billboard. So that's my goal, is to continue to enlighten and educate others on the transformation that you can become something other than the streets, the gangs, the drugs, the alcohol.
That's like so strong. But before we get out of here, you want to let everybody know, you can look right there and let everybody know how they can contact you and how they can reach you and where you're at.
My name is Harvey Perry on Harvey Perry Senior on Facebook. You can reach me IG at @HP702LV. You can contact me for booking. That's one of my goals as well. As I'm out in the community, I want to travel the country and share my story so I can help these young people not make the decision and definitely go through what I went through.
Yeah, you got it. My man Harvey Perry in the building. It was definitely a pleasure having you here. And man, I mean, you've done a lot, and everything that you've done is, it's going up and it's going up. It's like you're turning the volume up every single step, and you've been doing a hell of a job, and you're doing it on your own.
Yeah.
So man, I definitely appreciate you being on the show.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah. Still looking like you're working out every day, man. Is that what you're doing?
Every day, 6 days a week, man.
All right.
I do something.
Hey, listen, tune into the next show. We're going to get out of here right now.
Micheal Elliott.
The Mike Elliott Show.
Micheal Elliott Show.
The Micheal Elliott Show.
The Michael Elliott Show.
Listen to Micheal Elliott.
It's the Micheal Elliott Show.
Thank you for tuning in to the Michael Elliott
Help
Show.
us grow this show. Like, subscribe, and comment.